My name is Vresh, and I am writing this. From a hospital bed on a world that should not exist, my 3 hearts are still racing, my breathing tubes are still shaking, and the medical staff keep telling me to rest, but I cannot rest, not yet, not until I tell someone what I have seen. The alarm woke me at the start of my work shift. I was a junior cataloger at the Galactic Survey Office, the lowest rank a person could hold while still being called a scientist. My job was simple. I read sensor reports, I filed them, I went home. For 200 cycles, nothing interesting had ever happened to me. Then the red light on my console started blinking and my quiet life ended forever. The signal was coming from Sector 9924. I checked the coordinates twice, then 3 times, then I called my supervisor. There must be a mistake, I said. System is showing a transmission from planet KX7. My supervisor's name was Alan. And GT snorts. And GT. She came over slowly, the way our people do when we sense danger. She looked at my screen. Her face turned pale green, which on our species means fear. That cannot be right, she whispered. I checked it 3 times. Check it again. I checked it again. The signal was real. Strong, steady. It pulsed across the screen like a heartbeat, and it was coming from the one place in the entire galaxy that nobody was allowed to visit. You must understand what KX7 means to my people. The planet has the highest threat rating in our records, 12 out of 12. There are only 3 worlds in the whole galaxy with that rating, and KX7 is the worst of them. We have a saying: when a child does something foolish and dangerous, we tell them, you might as well take a walk on KX7. The records about that planet are short, because every survey team we sent there stopped sending messages within hours of arrival. The first team disappeared 2,000 cycles ago. And GT snorts. And GT. The second team lasted 6 hours. The third team never even landed. Their ship was struck by a storm in the upper atmosphere before they could begin their descent. After that, the council passed a law: no more missions to KX7. The planet was sealed in our records under a black mark, which means do not approach, do not study, do not even speak about it in public meetings. And now a signal was coming from its surface. Alan called the High Magistrate. And GT snorts. And GT. I sat at my desk and watched my hands shake. I was a cataloger. I filed reports. I was not trained for this kind of thing, but within an hour I was standing in a council chamber filled with the most important people on my homeworld, and they were all staring at me. You discovered the signal, the High Magistrate said. Her voice was calm, but I could see her membranes trembling. Tell us what you know. I told them everything: the pattern of the transmission, the strength, the frequency, the fact that the signal seemed to be in a language, but a language none of our translators could recognize. I spoke for 20 minutes. When I finished, the council went quiet. Then they argued for 6 hours. Some wanted to ignore the signal. Some wanted to bomb the planet from orbit just to be safe. Some wanted to send a warship. The Threllan ambassador, who never agreed with anyone, suggested we pretend the signal had never existed and erase all records of it. But in the end, the council decided to send one ship. One small ship, one person. Me. You are expendable, the High magistrate said, and she did not even try to make it sound polite. If something goes wrong, the loss will be acceptable. I wanted to refuse. I wanted to run home and hide under my sleeping pad and pretend I had never seen the signal, but you do not refuse the high magistrate. So I bowed, and I accepted the mission. And I tried very hard not to cry in front of the council. They gave me a scout ship called the Pale Wanderer. It was old. It was small, but it had the best translator system available, and it had the strongest hull our engineers could build. They gave me a survival suit rated for Class 9. Danger KX-7 was rated Class 12. The engineer who handed me the suit looked at me with pity in her eyes. "Try not to leave the ship," she said. I left my home world 3 days later. My family came to see me off. My mother held my hand for a long time. She did not say anything. She did not need to. We both knew what kind of mission this was. We both knew the records said nobody came back from KX-7. The journey took 11 days. I spent most of it reading every file the archives had on the forbidden planet. The information was thin, but what little there was filled me with dread. The atmosphere of KX-7 was made mostly of nitrogen with a huge amount of oxygen mixed in. Free oxygen, the kind that burns. On most worlds, oxygen exists in small, safe amounts bound up in rocks and water. On KX-7, it floated freely in the air, ready to burst into flame at the smallest spark. Any normal species that breathed that air would have their lungs destroyed within minutes. The gravity was high, strong enough to crack the bones of most galactic species. The temperature changed by hue amounts between day and night and between summer and winter. Storms moved across the surface constantly, some of them spinning at speeds that could pick up our largest vehicles and throw them like toys. But the worst part, the part that made my heart skip, was the biology section. The planet was full of life, not just bacteria and small plants like most habitable worlds. KX-7 had an entire food chain of creatures, and most of them were predators, large predators with teeth and claws and venom. The records showed at least 4 million species of living things in the survey. Notes used words like aggressive, territorial, and constantly hunting. I read those notes over and over during my journey. I tried to imagine a world where life was so dense, so violent, that even the smallest creatures wanted to bite you. I could not imagine it. My home world was peaceful. Our largest predator was a small flying creature that ate fruit. The idea of a planet full of meat eaters seemed like something from a nightmare. On the 11th day, my ship's alarm woke me. I had arrived. I sat up in my sleeping pod and looked at the main view screen, and I forgot how to breathe. KX-7 was beautiful. I do not know how to describe what I felt. The records had not prepared me. The planet hung in space like a blue and green stone wrapped in white clouds. Vast oceans covered most of its surface. Green continents stretched across the rest. The poles were white with frozen water. It was the most colorful world I had ever seen. It looked alive in a way that other worlds did not, and it was full of life. This was the part that broke my mind. The night side of the planet was glowing, thousands of points of light clustered together in shapes that could only be cities. Roads stretched between them like glowing veins. The orbit around the planet was crowded with satellites, hundreds of them, blinking and rotating. and clearly artificial. This was not a dead world. This was not a hostile wilderness. This was a civilization, a large one possibly, larger than my own. I sat there in shock for almost an hour. Before I remembered to do my job, I activated the long-range scanners and began collecting data. I tried to count the cities I gave up after 7,000. I tried to measure the radioactivity coming off the planet. My instruments could not handle the amount. There were millions of separate signals, broadcasting in dozens of different languages, all of them strong and clear. Then I tried to hail them. I sent a basic greeting on the standard concordance frequency. Nothing happened. I tried again on every frequency I knew. Still nothing. I was about to give up when I remembered something. These people had developed without our help. They would not know our frequencies. They would be using their own. So I switched my receiver to listen on every band all at once, and the noise that came back nearly deafened me. Music, voices, strange sounds I could not identify, pictures even sent as patterns of light. I had stumbled into the middle of a conversation that involved an entire planet, and they had no idea I was there. I started broadcasting back, a simple pattern, mathematical, the same pattern any spacefaring race would recognize as a greeting from another spacefaring race. I sent it again and again, hoping someone would notice. It took less than 4 minutes. A new signal appeared on my console. It was aimed directly at my ship. It was coming from one of the larger glowing cities, and it was strong enough to overpower every other broadcast on the planet. My translator went silent for a long moment, struggling. Then a voice came through my speakers. Unknown vessel, this is Earth space. Command, please respond. We see you. Repeat, we see you and we are not afraid. I sat there with my mouth hanging open, which on my species is a sign of complete shock. They had detected my ship. They had built a translator that could understand my pattern. They had reached me within minutes, and the last thing they said, the very last words, made every single one of my 3 hearts go cold. We are not afraid. What kind of people, looking up at an alien ship for the first time in their history, choose those words as their greeting? Not we mean no harm, not please identify yourself, not even welcome. They chose to tell me first that they were not afraid. I pressed the response button with a trembling hand. Greetings, Earth Space Command, I said. My name is Vresh. I come from the Galactic Concordance. I am here in peace, and I would like permission to learn more about your world. There was a long pause, then the voice came back, and this time I could hear something in it that I had not heard before: curiosity, excitement, joy. Vresh, the voice said, welcome to Earth. We have been waiting for someone like you for a very, very long time. Please come down. I stared at the view screen. The planet stared back at me, blue and green and impossible. Down there were predators that could rip through my survival suit. Down there was air that could burn me alive. Down there was gravity that could crush my bones, and storms that could swallow my ship, and a civilization that had grown up surrounded by all of it and had still found time to look up at the stars. I should have turned back. I should have followed orders and reported the situation and let the council decide what to do. But I am a scientist, and in front of me was the greatest discovery in our history. So I took a deep breath. I gripped the controls of the Pale Wanderer, and I began my descent into the most dangerous world in the galaxy. The atmosphere hit my ship like a wall of fists. The Pale Wanderer was built to handle rough conditions, but this was something else. Winds tossed me sideways, lightning flashed all around me, the hull temperature climbed faster than my cooling system could manage. I gripped the controls until my fingers ached, and I prayed to ancestors I had not thought of in years. A new voice came over the radio, calmer than the first, older. Pale Wanderer, this is Earth space. Command guidance, we see your ship is struggling. We are going to talk you through the descent. Trust us, we have done this many times. I almost laughed out loud. They had never seen my ship before. They did not know its systems. They did not know my species. And yet they were offering to help me land on a world I had never visited, in conditions that should have killed me 3 times already. But I had no other option, so I trusted them. For the next 40 minutes that calm voice spoke to me. She told me when to turn, when to slow down, when to brace. She knew the weather patterns of her world, the way I knew the layout of my office. Every storm she predicted, every bump she warned me about, slowly, carefully. She guided me through the violent sky of her home. And just as the storms began to clear, just as the surface of, she said something I will never forget. Welcome to Earth, friend, you made it. Most of us were not so lucky on our first time through. I did not know what she meant, not then. But I would learn. Oh, I would learn. The landing pad was huge, made of some gray material I did not recognize. The buildings around it stretched up into the sky like fingers reaching for the stars, and standing at the edge of the pad waiting for me was a small group of figures. Humans. That is what they called themselves. I would not learn the word for hours yet. But there they stood in the open air of their deadly world, wearing nothing but simple clothes, no survival suits, no breathing equipment. They stood in the corrosive oxygen and the crushing gravity and the killing temperatures. And they waved at me. They waved. My ship touched down, the engines went quiet, and as the dust settled, I realized I was about to step out of my safe metal shell and meet, face to face, the most impossible people in the galaxy. My 3 hearts were beating so hard I thought they might break my chest, but I stood up, straightened my survival suit, and opened the door. The first human I met smiled at me. I would later learn that this expression, the showing of teeth, was a sign of friendship among their people. But in that moment, looking at a row of sharp white teeth in a pink mouth, I almost ran back inside my ship and flew home. I am very glad I did not. The first human I met was named Daniel Carter. He stood taller than me by half, a body length with skin the color of pale sand and short hair the color of fire. He held out one hand, palm flat, fingers extended. I had no idea what to do with it. It is a greeting, he said through my translator. We touch hands like this. He reached down and took my hand gently. His skin was warm, warmer than mine. His grip was soft, but I could feel the strength behind it held back. He could have crushed my fingers without effort. He did not. Welcome to Earth, Vresh, he said. I am the lead diplomat for our planet. We are very happy you are here. Behind him stood 5 more humans, 3 females and 2 males, all dressed in different colors, all watching me with Bright eyes, I noticed something strange. About their eyes, they were forward, facing both pointing in the same direction. On my world, only one type of creature had eyes like that, the hunters, the predators that chased and caught their prey. But Daniel Carter did not look like a hunter, he looked friendly. He led me away from the landing pad, toward a small vehicle that floated above the ground. The other humans followed. As we walked, I tried not to stare at everything, but I failed. The sky above me was blue, not green or purple, but a deep, soft blue. The air smelled of plants and rain and something sweet I could not name. A bird flew overhead, calling out in a clear voice. Small creature with 4 legs ran past me, chasing a smaller creature with wings. The smaller creature got away. That was a cat, Daniel said, noticing my stare. It is a predator we keep in our homes. You keep predators in your homes. Many of them, they are good company. I did not know how to respond to that. The vehicle took us to a building that stretched higher than any structure on my home world. Inside there were chambers for sleeping, for eating, for talking. There were even chambers just for sitting and looking at the sky. Daniel showed me to a room that had been prepared for me. The air in this room had been changed to match my breathing needs. The lights were dimmer than the rest of the building because his scientists had guessed correctly that my eyes were sensitive to bright light. How did you know? I asked. About my ear, about my eyes. He smiled again. We studied your ship as it approached. Our scientists made many guesses. Some were wrong, but we had a few hours to prepare, and we did the best we could. A few hours. They had reverse engineered my biology in a few hours from scans alone. I sat down on the soft platform they called a bed. My legs felt weak. Not from the gravity, though that was bad enough, but from the overwhelming nature of everything I was experiencing. These people were not what I expected. They were not aggressive. They were not violent. They were thoughtful, careful, kind. But they lived on a world that was actively trying to destroy them. That night I could not sleep. I sat by the window of my room and looked out at the city below. The light stretched as far as I could see. The streets were full of vehicles. Tiny figures walked between the buildings, going about their lives, and above it all the storms gathered. A bolt of lightning split the sky. The sound came a moment later, so loud that the window vibrated. The rain began to fall in sheets. Wind howled around the building and down on the streets. The humans kept walking. Some of them opened small folding objects to cover their heads. Some of them did not even bother. They simply walked through the rain as if it were nothing. I watched one human, a small one, hold the hand of a larger one. The small one was laughing at the rain, laughing at the storm, as if the violence of the sky was the most delightful thing in the world. I began to understand then that I was not just on a different planet. I was among a different kind of mind, a mind that had been shaped by a world that fought back, a mind that had decided somewhere deep in its history that the answer to a violent universe was not to hide. The answer was to laugh. The next morning, Daniel came to my room and asked if I would like to meet his people. I said yes. He took me to a vehicle that flew, not floated, and we rose up above the city. The view was incredible. We flew over mountains taller than anything on my world. We flew over forests so thick I Could not see the ground. We flew over a desert that stretched for thousands of miles, full of sand and stone and almost no water at all. And in the middle of that desert I saw something that stopped my breath. A city. People had built a city in the middle of a desert, a place where the temperature was hot enough to kill, where water was scarce, where the ground itself burned in the sun. And there it was, towers of glass and metal, streets full of people, parks with trees, pools of water that should not have been possible. How, I asked, how can a city exist here? We brought the water, Daniel said. We piped it in from far away. We grew the trees ourselves. We built the buildings to handle the heat. But why live such a place? He shrugged. Because someone wanted to. So they built it. That was his entire answer. Because someone wanted to, so they built it. We flew on. He showed me a place where his people lived on the slopes of a mountain that breathed fire. The mountain had buried the city beneath it more than once in their history. Each time they had rebuilt it on top of the ruins. He showed me a place where the ground shook so often that the buildings were designed to dance with the movement. He showed me a place near the freezing pole where the temperature dropped low, enough to freeze most galactic species, solid, and where humans lived in warm wooden homes and hunted on the ice for fun. For fun. I asked him about that, the hunting, the danger, the deliberate placing of themselves in harm's way. He thought for a long time before he answered. Our species was shaped by hardship, he said. We were not the strongest creatures on our planet. We were not the fastest. We did not have claws or thick fur or sharp teeth. What we had was patience, memory, each other. We learned to outlast the things that hunted us. We learned to hunt them back, and over time, we became the dominant species on this world. But the world never stopped trying to test us, so we kept getting better, tougher, smarter. The danger made us who we are. We do not run from it anymore. We have made peace with it. You have made peace with danger. In a way, we respect it. We prepare for it, but we do not let it stop us from living. I sat with that thought for a long time. As we flew back to the main city, I tried to imagine my own people, soft and careful as we were, growing up on a world like this. We would not have survived. The first storm would broken us. The first predator would have ended our line. We had only thrived because our home world was gentle. We had built our great civilization on the foundation of an easy planet. But these humans, these strange, smiling, warm-handed people, they had been forged in a fire that would have melted us, and they had come out the other side as something I could barely understand. That evening, Daniel introduced me to more of his people. They came to meet me in groups: scientists, artists, workers, teachers, children. I was especially curious about the children. They were small versions of the adults, and they had no fear of me at all. They climbed on my chair. They touched my exoskeleton. They asked questions, voices that had not yet learned to be careful. Why is your skin shiny? Why do you have 3 eyes? Can you fly? Do you eat with your hands or your mouth? I answered every question. The children laughed at some of my answers. One of them, a small female with bright yellow hair, gave me a flower, just handed it to me, smiled, and ran away. I sat there holding the small plant, and I felt something move inside my chest. that I could not name. These were not the dangerous predators I had been warned about. These were people, curious, kind, brave people. They had taken one look at the universe and decided that fear was not the answer. They had built rockets and reached for the stars. They had crossed their planet and made homes in every part of it. They had even learned to live with the creatures that wanted to eat them. I began to think the council had been wrong about Earth, not just slightly wrong, deeply, completely wrong. That night I sent my first full report back to the Galactic Concordance. I told them everything. I told them about the cities, the people, the gentle handshakes, the smiling children, the flower I had been given. I told them that Earth was not a threat, that its people were not warriors looking to conquer, they were neighbors looking to meet us. I told them we should welcome the humans into the wider galaxy. The response came back 6 hours later. It was short. Return immediately. Do not engage further. Do not encourage them to leave their world. Your report is alarming. We will discuss next steps upon your return. I read the message 3 times. I felt my heart sink. They had not understood. Or they had understood and the understanding had frightened them. I went to find Daniel. He was in a chamber on the top floor of the building looking out at the night city. The storm from the night before was gone. The sky was clear and the stars were visible through the city lights. He turned when I entered and he smiled, and then he saw my face and the smile faded. What is wrong? He asked. I told him about the message. I told him about my people, the council, the fear. I told him that the Concordance was afraid of his world and afraid of his people, and that they wanted me to come home and tell them nothing more. He listened quietly. When I finished, he was silent for a long time. Then he said something that changed everything. Vresh, I need to tell you something. We already know about your council. My 3 hearts stopped at the same time. What? He sat down across from me. His face was serious now. The smile was completely gone. We have been listening to galactic signals for almost 300 years. We did not understand most of them at first, but our computers are good, very good, and we slowly learned to decode them. We know about the Concordance. We know about its members. We know it has a record of our planet marked in red. We know we were not supposed to exist. I could not speak. We never reached out, he continued, because we wanted to wait. We wanted to be ready. We wanted to make sure that when we made first contact, we would do it on our own terms, with grace, with kindness, not with fear. So we waited. We listened. We learned your languages. We studied your cultures, and we built a plan. A plan. He looked me in the eyes. To show you who we really are, so that when the day came when someone like you finally arrived, we would be ready to greet you properly, to welcome you, to prove that we are not the killers your records say we are. I sat back in my chair. My mind was spinning. You knew I was coming. We knew someone would come eventually. The signal we have been broadcasting for the last 20 years was an invitation, a polite knock on the door of the galaxy. We hoped someone would answer. You did. I thought about the council, about their fear, about their warning to leave immediately and tell the humans nothing. I thought about the children, about the flower, about the calm voice that had guided my ship through the storm. And I made a decision. Daniel, I said, I need to talk to Your leaders, all of them tonight. He nodded slowly. They have been waiting for you. The meeting was held in a chamber deeper than any I had seen so far. It was beneath the ground with thick walls of stone, and it was protected by every kind of security their world had to offer. Daniel told me this was where the most important decisions of his species were made, where the leaders of every nation gathered when something truly serious needed to be discussed. Tonight they had gathered for me. There were 193 of them, one from every country on Earth. They sat in a great circle on chairs arranged in rising rows so that everyone could see everyone else. When I entered the room, they all stood up at the same time. 193 humans of every shape and color and size rising to their feet in silence to greet a single small alien who had stumbled onto their world by accident. I had never felt so small in my life. A female human stepped forward. Her hair was silver. Her face was lined with age. She moved slowly, but her eyes were sharp and clear. Daniel had told me about her on the way down. Her name was Margaret Holt, and she was the elected Speaker of the Joint Council of Nations. She was the closest thing Earth had to a single leader, though she would have laughed at being called that. She walked to the center of the circle, and she bowed to me, a small, simple bow. Then she gestured to a chair that had been set up just for me, sized for my body with the right kind of cushion for my back. They had thought of everything. Vresh of the Galactic Concordance, she said. Her voice was soft but strong. The room was so quiet I could hear my own breathing. We are honored to receive you. Thank you for coming. I did not know how to respond, so I bowed back. The humans seemed pleased by this. I sat down. Margaret Holt sat across from me. Daniel stood behind her, watching with worried eyes. The rest of the leaders settled into their seats. Tell us, Margaret said. Tell us about your people. Tell us about your council. Tell us why you came alone. We will listen. We will not interrupt. When you are finished, we will speak. So I talked. I talked for almost 2 hours. I told them everything about the Concordance, about its 311 member species, about the 8,000 worlds, about the long peace we had built and the careful way we had built it. I told them about the rating system that had marked their world in red. I told them about the fear that ran through my council, the fear that had made them want to ignore Earth or destroy it or pretend it did not exist. I told them about the warning I had received that very night, the order to come home and say nothing. Then I told them about my own thoughts. I told them I disagreed with my council. I told them that meeting them had changed me. I told them that I believed Earth and its people belonged in the wider galaxy, and that the Concordance would be richer, kinder, and braver for knowing them. When I finished, the room was silent for a very long time. Then Margaret Holt began to speak, and what she said I will remember until the day my third heart stops beating. Vresh, we thank you for your honesty. We will be just as honest with you. Yes, we know about the Concordance. Yes, we have heard your transmissions for many years. Yes, we knew that one day someone would come, and we have prepared for that day. But there is something you do not know about us, something we must tell you now. She paused. The other leaders watched her carefully. We have not been waiting because we are weak. We have been waiting because we are kind. Our planet has shaped us, yes. It has made us strong. It has made us tough. We have survived many things that would have ended other species. But that strength, Vresh, that strength has taught us something important. It has taught us that being strong is not enough. You must also choose to be gentle. The most dangerous thing in the universe is not a powerful species. It is a powerful species that does not know mercy. She leaned forward. We know mercy. We have learned it the hard way through our own mistakes over and over again. Our history is full of times we were not kind, times we hurt each other, times we hurt our world. We have made every error a young species can make, and we have lived to regret them. That is the gift our planet gave us, not just toughness, but wisdom. The wisdom that comes from getting things wrong again and again, and finally learning to get them right. The other leaders nodded. When we go out into the galaxy, Vresh, we will not go as conquerors. We have already learned that conquest does not work. We have already paid that price. We will go as travelers, as students, as guests. We do not want your worlds. We have our own. We want only what every species wants, to know that we are not alone, to share a meal with someone strange and wonderful, to laugh at jokes we do not fully understand, to learn from others, and to teach what we can. She looked at me with eyes full of something I can only describe as warmth. Tell your council that. Tell them we are not a danger. Tell them we are a chance to welcome a new neighbor who has prepared for many generations to be the best neighbor she can be. I sat in my chair holding back a flood of feelings I did not have words for. My own people would have called this speech naive. They would have called it dangerous. They would have said that no species could be trusted to remain peaceful, especially one as physically powerful as humans. But I had been on Earth for 3 days now. I had walked among them. I had been touched by their children. I had been guided through a violent storm by a voice that had only wanted to help me. And GT snorts. And GT. I had been given a flower by a small girl with yellow hair. I believed her. I stood up. The human stood up with me. I bowed deeper than before. The whole circle bowed back. I will tell them, I said. I will tell them everything, and I will speak for you with all the strength I have. Margaret Holt smiled, a real smile this time, not just polite. Then we have a friend in the concordance, she said, and that is a very good thing to have. I left the chamber that night with more weight on my shoulders than any cataloger had ever carried. I was no longer just a survey clerk. I had become, by accident and by choice, an ambassador, the first ambassador between Earth and the rest of the galaxy. I went back to my room. I did not sleep. I spent the entire night writing my second report. It was 20,000 words long. I told the council everything I had learned. I begged them to reconsider their fear. I described Margaret Holt's speech in detail. I told them about the children, the cities, the storm, the smiles, the flower. I sent the report just before sunrise. I did not expect a reply for many hours. The council would need time to read it, to argue, to decide. But the reply came back in only 40 minutes. It was not from the council. It was from my old supervisor, Alan. She had attached a personal note before forwarding the formal response. Her note read, I am sorry. I am so sorry. My 3 hearts went cold. Below her note was the council's official decision. I read it once. Twice a third time, the words refused to make sense in my mind. The concordance had decided that Earth was a danger that could not be allowed to grow. They had decided that contact must be ended. They had decided that I was to return home at once, and that I was to inform the humans that no further communication would be permitted, ever. And they had decided one more thing. Very last line of the message was short, brutal. It made my whole body shake. A fleet had been dispatched, 12 warships. They were on their way to Earth right now. They would arrive in 9 days. Their mission was not destruction. The message assured me, but containment. A blockade, a wall of ships placed around the planet to make sure that the humans never reach the stars. The fleet had orders to fire only if humans attempted to leave their solar system. But I knew my council. I knew how it worked. I knew that once those ships arrived with their commanders trained to see Earth as a threat, the chances of peaceful containment were small. One mistake, one nervous officer, one misread signal, that was all it would take. I sat alone in my room holding the small, dried flower the human child had given me, and I realized I had 9 days to stop a disaster. I had 9 days to save Earth from my own people, and I had no idea how to begin. I went to find Daniel. Daniel was already awake when I reached him. He was sitting in the chamber we had first met, drinking the dark hot liquid his people called coffee. He looked up when I entered, and his expression changed immediately. He had been smiling, now he was not. "What has happened?" he asked. I told him. I gave him every detail of the Council's message, the decision to cut off contact, the fleet of 12 warships, the 9 days, the orders to contain Earth and prevent humans from reaching the stars. He listened without speaking. When I finished, he set down his cup very slowly, as if he were afraid of breaking it. "How big are these warships?" he asked. "Much larger than my scout vessel. Each one can hold a crew of 200. They carry weapons that can destroy a city in seconds. And there are 12 of them." "Yes." He stood up. He walked to the window. He looked out at the city below, where the morning was just beginning. Tiny figures moved through the streets. Vehicles flew between the buildings. Children walked to their schools. None of them knew what was coming. "Vresh," he said quietly, "I need to make some calls." He left the room. I sat there alone for a long time, watching the city wake up. My heart heavy with guilt. I had brought this to them by coming here, by making my report, by being honest about the Council's fear. If I had stayed away, if I had lied in my reports, if I had told the Council the signal was a mistake, none of this would be happening. The humans would still be safe, hidden, free. But I knew that was not true either. The concordance would have found them. Eventually, sooner or later, another ship would have come, another cataloger. The fear was already in my people. It had been there long before I arrived. I had only been the messenger. Daniel returned 3 hours later. He was not alone. Margaret Holt was with him, along with 5 other leaders I recognized from the meeting. They all looked tired. They had been awake all night. "We have a plan," Margaret said, sitting down across from me, "but it depends on you." "Tell me," I said. She looked at the others. They all nodded. "We are going to greet your fleet," she said. I was not sure I had heard her correctly. "Greet them?" "Yes." Margaret, they have 12 warships. They have orders to contain you. If you appear to be threatening them in any way, they will fire. We will not threaten them. Then what will you do? She smiled, and there was something fierce and beautiful in that smile. We will welcome them. We will go up to meet them in our own ships, not military ships, civilian ones. We will fill them with our best people, diplomats, artists, scientists, cooks, musicians, doctors, teachers. We will bring food and music and gifts. We will fly out, unarmed and unafraid, and we will offer them everything we have. We will not run. We will not hide. We will not fight. We will simply be ourselves, and we will let them see who we really are. I stared at her in disbelief. That is your plan, to fly out unarmed and hope for the best? No, she said, that is not our plan. That is our message. Our plan is more complicated. We will not just hope. We will prepare. We will broadcast our greetings on every frequency. We will share our history with them, our music, our literature, our science. We will let them see footage of our children, our weddings, our funerals, our triumphs, and our failures. We will hide nothing. We will offer everything. We will make it impossible for them to see us as a threat without first seeing us as people. And if it does not work, Margaret looked at me steadily, then we will be the first to fall, but we will fall as we have lived, without fear, together, singing. I did not know what to say. Daniel sat down next to me. He put a warm hand on my shoulder. Vresh, he said, we need you. You are the only one who knows the council, the only one who can speak to them in their own language with their own concepts. We need you to go to that fleet first, to meet them before the rest of us arrive, to explain, to prepare them so that when they see our ships approaching, they do not see invaders, they see neighbors. I thought about it. I thought about the council, about the fear in their hearts, about the way our species had survived for so long by being careful, by avoiding danger, by running from things we did not understand. I thought about the message they had sent me, the order to come home and say nothing. I thought about the dried, clear's throat flower I had carried in my pocket all night. I will do it, I said. Margaret nodded. There were tears in her eyes. She reached out and took my hand in both of hers, gently, the way she would hold something precious. Thank you, Vresh. Thank you. The next 8 days were the strangest of my life. I left Earth in my scout ship and flew out toward the edge of their solar system where the Concordance fleet would arrive. The journey took 2 days. During that time I prepared, I recorded messages, I wrote speeches, I planned every word I would say to the fleet commander. Behind me, the humans were preparing. Too, I watched on my screens as their planet erupted in activity. Every nation, every city, every village. People came together to choose their representatives. Artists composed new music. Cooks prepared the finest meals of their species. Children drew pictures and packed them into the ships to be given to my people as gifts. Scientists compressed their greatest knowledge into simple lessons that could be shared. The whole planet became one great, beautiful preparation for a meeting they hoped would change everything. They built no weapons, they prepared no defenses, they simply got ready to be themselves on the biggest stage they had ever stood upon. On the 7th day, my long-range scanners picked up the first ship of the fleet, the lead vessel, the Triumph of Reason. I knew the captain. His name was Captain Velen. He was old, careful, famous in the Concordance for his unshakable calm. I hailed him as soon as he was close. Enough. Captain Velen, this is cataloger of Resh. I'm here on official business. I request a conversation before you reach your destination. The reply came back fast. Cataloger, you were ordered to return home. Why are you still in this system? Captain, I have urgent information. Humans are not what we believed. I beg you to hear me before you make any decisions. Lives depend on it, please. There was a long silence, then his voice came back slower this time. Cataloger, come aboard, we will talk. I docked with the triumph of reason just as the rest of the fleet arrived, 11 other warships spreading out into formation around Earth's outer system. They were huge, beautiful, terrifying. Their snorts hulls gleamed in the light of Earth's sun. Their weapons glowed faintly ready. Captain Velen met me in his command chamber. He was an old member of my species with cracked exoskeleton and tired eyes. He had served the Concordance for almost 300 cycles. He had seen many things. Sit, he said, and speak. I sat, I spoke. I told him everything, just as I had told the human leaders about my journey, about Daniel, about the children, about Margaret Holt, about the flower, about the speech I had heard, about the plan the humans had made to greet his fleet not with weapons but with food and music and gifts. He listened in silence, his old eyes never left mine. When I finished, he sat back in his chair. He was quiet for a long time. Cataloger, he finally said, I have served in the Concordance for longer than you have been alive. I have seen many species, some good, some bad. I have been to 47 first contact events. I know how this works. The councils fear what they do not understand. The fleets are sent to contain. The captains follow orders. That is how peace is kept. Captain, I know you are telling me to disobey my orders. I am telling you to think for yourself. Just once, just this one time. He stared at me for a long moment. Show me, he said. So I did. I activated my console and I broadcast everything I had recorded. The conversations, the footage, the faces of the human children, the voice of Margaret Holt, the flower. I played it all on the great view screen of his command chamber while his bridge crew watched in silence. I saved one thing for last. I had recorded it the day before I left Earth. The humans had gathered together at the launch site, all the people who would be flying out to meet the fleet. They had stood together in the rising sun and sung a song. I did not understand the words, but the sound of their voices joined together, hundreds of voices in one chorus, had brought tears to my eyes even at the time. I played that song now on Captain Velen's bridge. The crew listened. Some of them looked away, some of them did not. None of them spoke. When the song ended, Captain Velen stood up. He walked to the great viewport. He looked out at the small blue and green planet hanging in the distance, with its glowing cities and its violent storms and its impossible people. He stood there for a long time. Then he turned around. Bridge, he said, open all communication channels, standard Concordance broadcast, galaxy-wide. His communication officer blinked in surprise. Captain, do it. She did it. A green light blinked on the console showing that the channel was open. Every Concordance ship, every Concordance world, every Concordance citizen would hear what was said now. Captain Velen stood very straight. He was a soldier of the old kind. Disciplined, proud, he cleared his throat. This is Captain Velen of the Concordance Fleet, to the Council, to the magistrates, to all who can hear me. I have arrived at the Earth system. I have received new information that changes the situation. I am requesting permission to engage in formal first contact with the species of Earth. They have come to meet us. They are unarmed. They have brought gifts. They wish to talk. I request that the order of containment be paused and the order of diplomacy be issued in its place. I will await the Council's response. Captain Velen, ending transmission. The light blinked off. He turned to me. That was the most unusual thing I have ever done in my career, he said. Thank you, I whispered. Do not thank me yet. We will see what the Council says. The reply took an hour. It came back from the High Magistrate herself. Her voice was angry, cold, disappointed. She accused Captain Velen of breaking protocol. She accused me of corruption. She snorts, ordered the captain to ignore his sudden weakness and proceed with containment. But something else had happened in that hour. Captain Velen's broadcast had gone out galaxy-wide, and the galaxy had heard it. Member species who had no part in the decision to send the fleet had heard a captain ask simply and honestly to be allowed to talk before he was forced to contain. They had heard him share what he had learned, and many of them the kind ones, the curious ones, the ones who had grown tired of fear, had started asking questions of their own. The Concordance, for the first time in its long history, was not unanimous. Captain Velen listened to the High Magistrate's order. He listened all the way to the end. Then he turned to his bridge crew. We will follow standard first contact protocol, he said calmly. Open the docking bays. Prepare to receive guests. His communication officer's mouth fell open. Captain, that violates the order. It does. You will face a tribunal. I will. She stared at him, then she stood up. She turned to her console. Docking bays opening, she said. Receiving guests. I almost wept. The first human ship arrived 3 hours later, then another 27. Ships in total, none of them armed, all of them filled with the best of what humanity had to offer. They docked with the Concordance fleet one by one, and from each ship came humans in their bright clothes and their warm smiles, carrying food and music and gifts. I stood beside Captain Velen on the docking bay floor as Margaret Holt walked off the lead ship. She saw me. She smiled. She walked up to Captain Velen. She held out her hand flat and open. Captain, she said, I am Margaret. Thank you for letting us come aboard. Captain Velen looked at her hand. He looked at her face. He looked at me. Then slowly, carefully, with the awkwardness of an old man trying something new, he reached out his own hand and let her take it. His old eyes filled with something I had not seen in him before. Hoping. The change did not happen in a single day or a single week or even a single cycle. The Concordance was a great old structure, slow to bend. There were arguments, there were votes, there were factions that called for Captain Velen to be punished. There were factions that called for him to be honored. The galaxy debated for many seasons what to do about the humans, while the humans themselves quietly, patiently waited. But the seed had been planted that day in the docking bay when an old captain shook hands with a silver-haired woman who had flown out unarmed to meet him. In the seasons that followed, humans came to many concordance worlds. They came in small numbers at first. Diplomats, scientists, artists, they brought their music with them, their food, their strange habit of laughing loudly at jokes that other species found only mildly funny. They cried at our funerals, which we found embarrassing at first, but then we came to understand it. As a gift, they told stories that lasted half the night. They asked endless questions. They petted creatures that had warned them not to be petted, and they laughed when the creatures bit them, and they did it again the next day. They were exhausting. They were wonderful. They changed every world they touched. But the deepest change happened to us. The concordance, the old, careful, frightened concordance. We had built our civilization on the foundation of fear, fear of danger, fear of the unknown, fear of any species that might be stronger than ourselves. We had survived by running, by hiding, by choosing the gentle worlds, by avoiding the hard places. The humans showed us another way, not a better way perhaps, but a different one, a way of being strong without being cruel, of being brave without being foolish, of facing fear and choosing kindness anyway, of laughing at storms. Slowly, over many cycles, the concordance began to change. We sent expeditions to worlds we had previously avoided. We made contact with species we had previously ignored. We grew, we stretched, we learned. The humans walked beside us every step of the way, smiling their tooth-filled smiles, asking their endless questions, eating their burning hot foods, falling in love with everything they saw. I was given a medal, several medals, actually for my work in the first contact, for my reports, for my courage in disobeying the council. They put a statue of me in the courtyard of the Galactic Survey Office. I have never visited it. I find it embarrassing. Margaret Holt sent me a card when she heard about it. It said only, "We are proud of you. Come visit, bring snacks." Captain Velen was put on trial. The trial lasted a long time. In the end, he was not punished. The galaxy had changed too much by then. The humans were already woven into our lives to punish. The captain who had let them in would have meant to reject everything good that had come since. He retired with honor and spent the rest of his cycles living on Earth in a small house by the ocean, learning to fish from a human friend named Patrick. Daniel Carter became the first official ambassador between Earth and the Concordance. He served in that role for 15 years. He was loved by every species he met. When he grew old and tired, he went home to Earth to live out his last days. I visited him before the end. He held my hand. He smiled. "I knew you would be the one, Vresh," he said. "From the moment we saw your ship coming through the storm, I knew." I did not know what to say, so I just held his hand. He passed not long after. They buried him in a small green field outside his city. Half the galaxy attended the ceremony, including the High Magistrate herself, who had long since stopped being afraid. She placed a stone on his grave with her own 3 hands. I am old now. My exoskeleton is cracked. My third heart skips sometimes. I no longer travel as much as I used to, but I keep the small dried flower from the human child in a glass case on my desk, where I can see it every day. It is the most precious thing I own. People ask me sometimes what I learned from the humans, what lesson there Planet taught me I have many answers. But the truest one is this. We thought as a galaxy that life had to be gentle to be good. We thought that the safe worlds, the easy worlds, the kind worlds were the ones that produced the best people. We were wrong, we were so wrong. The humans were forged on a planet that fought them every single day, a planet that flooded them, burned them, shook them, chased them, hunted them, a planet that gave them every reason to be afraid, every reason to be hard, every reason to be cruel. And they chose instead to be kind. That is the gift of Earth, not just toughness, not just strength, but the wisdom to use that strength gently, the choice made every day to laugh at storms, instead of cursing them, to greet strangers with open hands, to send their best people unarmed into the path of a fleet that had come to contain them, because they trusted that goodness could speak louder than fear. I will tell you what no record will ever properly capture, what the histories will write down but never really say. We did not save the humans on the day the fleet arrived. They saved us. They saved us from our own fear. They opened a door that had been closed for 10,000 years. And on the other side of that door was a galaxy that had been waiting all along for someone brave enough to walk through. It's singing. I am writing this from my home near the great library on my home world, outside my window. The sky is its usual soft green. A human visitor walks past on the road below, talking loudly into a small device, gesturing with one hand. She is laughing about something. I do not know what. It does not matter. The sound of human laughter has become, over the long cycles of my life, one of the most familiar sounds in the universe. It is the sound of a species that should not exist, a species that grew up on the most lethal world in the galaxy and decided against all odds to be lovely. It is the sound of home now for all of us. My name is Vresh. I was a junior cataloger. I filed reports for a living. I never asked for any of this. I never wanted to be brave. I never wanted to be remembered. But one day, a signal came in from a forbidden world, and I picked up the call, and the galaxy was never the same.